Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hello and welcome. My name is Ashley. It is really good to have you. Today's video is going to be all about how to be a less angry, more patient mom. I posted earlier this week on Instagram one of those 10-year challenge pictures. And in the caption I had mentioned that looking at that picture, one of the biggest differences that I saw was the difference in who I was as a mother 10 years down the line, and how much less angry I was and how much more patient I was. And so many of you left comments and messaged me and said, please help me. I want to be a less angry mom. And so here we are. We're going to talk about the things that really helped me to be a less angry mother. So before we get into the video, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel if you aren't subscribed already. I post videos twice a week. I was doing Tuesday and Thursday, but I think I'm going to be moving to Sunday and Wednesday. Make sure you are following me over on Instagram if you aren't already. Joyful Chaos Mama, it's down in the description box. And that's it. Let's get into the video. So 10 years ago, I was a mom to two little boys, Riley and Wyatt. They were nearly 3 and 1, and I was angry all the time. I loved my boys very, very much, but I really struggled with my anger and with yelling and with just feeling completely out of control, with doubting my abilities as a mom, doubting whether I should even be a mom, because I just felt so honestly kind of hopeless all the time. Like it was just, everything was frustrating. Everything was hard. Everything made me angry. And I felt like my boys deserved a better mom than I was. But I didn't think that it could be me, because I didn't know how to get better, if that makes sense. And 10 years down the line, I still get mad. I still yell at my kids sometimes. But I am not the angry mom and the impatient mom that I was before. So I don't spend 4 days a week in tears calling my husband at work saying, I can't do this. I'm so frustrated. They're being so bad. They just won't listen to me. Yeah, things have changed a lot for the better. And I just have to say that my faith in God, following after his son, played such a huge part in the change in my motherhood and in knowing who I am and being able to step into that role of mom, accepting it more fully and making the changes that I needed to make to become the mom that God had called me to be. So what changed? What changed in those 10 years? I think one of the most important things is that I learned to recognize my anger for what it was. And this is something that I've seen lots of places. This is by no means like an original Ashley thought. Anger is a bodyguard emotion. Anger is there to protect you from having to feel what's underneath it. And for most of us, for myself, what was hiding behind anger was hurt and sadness and frustration and fear and anxiety. Those are emotions I think that so many moms struggle with when it comes to their kids. And I know I did big time. So recognizing what the anger was masking helped me to kind of pinpoint and move through some of these other things in a more honest way with myself. Recognizing the emotions for what they are, the feelings for what they actually are, instead of just saying, oh, I'm just mad because my kids are bad kids. My kids weren't bad kids. My kids were totally normal, typical toddler boys. The problem was me, not them. The problem is almost never our kids. It's us. And that can be a really tough pill to swallow, because there have absolutely been times where I have wanted to blame my children for my behavior, for my inability to control myself. And that's not fair. We can't blame other people for our actions, not even little people that we have brought forth into the world or welcomed into our home. Doesn't work that way. Okay, so 2 biggest triggers for anger for me, and really probably for just about everybody. Number 1, unmet expectations. whether those expectations are expectations that we have placed on our children or on our spouse or on ourselves. When our expectations go unmet, we get mad about it. I think that's true for just about everybody. Or we get sad about it. Or we feel frustrated about it. Or we have some fear that because this expectation isn't met, that means XYZ is going to happen. And we're living in anxiety about our future instead of just being in the moment. So we have to learn, I had to learn how to temper my expectations, how to have reasonable expectations of my kids, not expecting them to act like tiny adults, because they're not tiny adults. They're tiny humans, and they deserve to be treated with all of the love and respect and kindness that any human being deserves to be treated with, but they're not adults. And we can't expect them to act like it either. So reasonable expectations on our kids are so important. That doesn't mean that we can't have reasonably high expectations, because oftentimes our children will rise up to the challenge, but they need to be reasonable. Expectations on our spouses. This is kind of a tough one because it bleeds into our parenting, obviously, especially if you have different expectations of your kids than your spouse does. You guys have to talk it out. You have to communicate with one another, whether it's about your kids or about household division of chores or your emotional needs or whatever. You have to talk so that your spouse has a fighting chance of meeting your expectations and of yourself. You have to be honest with yourself about what you can actually accomplish in a day, or what is reasonable for you to expect to be able to get done. I think we don't give ourselves enough grace for, especially when you have a bunch of little kids and you don't have any big kids yet, because that was the space that I was in. I just had little kids. I wasn't good at giving myself the grace to get through the day, knowing that it was okay if my entire to-do list did not get done. And so then I would just kind of wallow in self-pity because the house was a mess and the kids were crazy and I was losing my mind. Expectations, huge one. The other thing that we have to deal with, that I had to deal with, because turns out I'm a really controlling person. I never thought I was, but I really am. Very controlling. I like things the way I like them. I like people to do things the way I want them to do them. And I don't understand why people don't just believe me and do it my way, because I'm almost always right. That's just, yeah. Not a good attitude to go into parenting with, because, well, you can't control your kids. So control is a big one. I had to learn to willingly give up control over my children. That was a huge lesson learned, and it actually wasn't even really learned until the last few years. I've been practicing giving giving up my children to God for years now, understanding that they don't belong to me, understanding that they are His, and that I have just been given stewardship over them. And I'm so incredibly grateful for the privilege of being their mom. But learning that I couldn't control my kids, that lesson took a little bit longer. Because the fact of the matter is, the only person that you can control is yourself. You cannot control your toddler. I'm sorry, you can't. You can coerce them or threaten them or manipulate them into doing what you want them to do. But that is only going to feed into your negative emotions, which are going to make you feel more angry in the long run. And it's going to damage your relationship with your child. And I think most of us want to get through parenting, through motherhood, with healthy relationships with our kids. Sure, we're not going to do everything perfectly, duh. But trying to control and manipulate your children will damage your relationship. And I made the decision that I cared far more about my children's hearts and about our relationship, and recognizing that I was raising adults, not trying to keep a toddler from having a temper tantrum. And yeah, letting go of that control and recognizing that I can only control me was a huge, huge thing for me. Even if you don't think you're a controlling person, you probably wish that you were in control more often than you are. So here are some of the things that I did and still do to help me with my expectations and that whole control issue. Number one, take some time to learn about childhood development. It sounds so simple, but it makes a huge difference if you spend a little bit of time even Googling age-appropriate behaviors and expectations for your kids. It changed a lot of things for me to understand, there are certain ages where lying tends to be a developmental milestone. Kids try out storytelling. It's developmental. If you don't flip your lid and scream and yell about it, it'll pass much faster. But yeah, really understanding brain development and all of that. First of all, it's fascinating to me, but it helped me to understand my kids better, and it helped me to empathize with them. And it's really hard to be mad at someone and feel empathy for them at the same time. So when my toddler or my preschooler is struggling with a huge emotion, recognizing that this is a part of their development and recognizing that they're still learning about this huge world and where they fit in it helps me to empathize with them. One of them's having a hard time right now. It helps me to empathize with them instead of to feel angry at them. I also pray and ask God to help me see my kids the way that He sees them. To help me love them the way that He loves them, and to recognize that they're His and not mine. I also like to have daily encouragement and inspiration for mothering the way that I want to mother. So I follow accounts on Instagram and Facebook like Celebrate Calm. He's constantly posting little snippets and ideas and just thoughts and inspiration to help us be the kind of parents we want to be. I've taken the Scream-Free Parenting class 3 times now. If you can't find a class near you, there's a book, Scream-Free Parenting. I will link that down below. I follow L.R. Nost. I think that she just has a beautiful way of talking about children and about parenting. I also follow on Instagram Simply on Purpose. She's amazing and has great ideas. She runs no yell challenges and things like that. So finding encouragement and inspiration, whether that be from parenting experts, or I also like to find my inspiration from scripture, from God's word, on the kind of mom I want to be. One thing that has been really, really key and instrumental for me, and I've kind of touched on just a little bit here and there, is really self-awareness. Because becoming a less angry, more patient mom, you can have reasonable expectations, and you can learn about childhood development, and you can learn to let go, but you're still going to have things that trigger your emotions and trigger your anger. So having the self-awareness to learn what those triggers are so that you can deal with them, whether that be in counseling or between you and God, or talking them out, or journaling about them. We all have things that trigger us when it comes to anger with our kids. And you guys, kids are, I fully believe, part of the reason that we are given our children is to refine us and to make us better, because God designed our children knowing exactly what buttons to push us right over the edge. I'm convinced of it. Our kids are going to trigger our negative emotions, and recognizing those triggers but not allowing them to control you is a big thing. Also, are your basic needs being met? Are you eating even halfway decently? Are you sleeping even halfway decently? Or are you doing things in the name of self-care that are actually detrimental to your health and to your well-being? But are your basic needs being met? If I don't eat and keep my blood sugar stable, I get mad. I get hangry is a real thing. And if I'm feeling angry because I haven't eaten, and then one of my kids does something that's slightly annoying, is it fair to them for me to fly off the handle because I haven't been taking care of myself? No. Not at all. So make sure that you are taking care of yourself. That's been a big thing for me, is making myself eat reasonably well and staying hydrated and sleeping. Even with a newborn, it's true. I have a 3-week-old baby. I still get enough sleep at night because I don't stay up till 1 a.m. I just can't do that anymore. It's too important for me that I be rested so that I can be a good mom the next day. And this one is really important. Do you have untreated depression or anxiety? Because that will exacerbate all of your feelings of worthlessness, all of your feelings of anger. I definitely struggled with some postpartum depression, specifically after Lucy, but I would venture a guess, looking back, I probably had postpartum depression after my second child as well. I had hyperthyroidism, and some of the symptoms of hyperthyroid can either exacerbate or imitate anxiety. So that probably worsened things for me in the way I was feeling then. But if you have untreated, and by treated, I don't necessarily mean meds. The answer for you might be meds, but therapy or doing whatever it is that you need to do to be better. Please take care of yourself. Not just for the sake of your kids, not just for the sake of your spouse, but for you, because you are a precious creation and you deserve to be well. So please take care of yourself. Yeah, and self-care ties in with that. Are your spiritual and emotional needs being met as well as the physical ones, like eating and drinking and sleeping? But are you spending time in God's word? Are you praying or meditating, or are you moving your body? Even if you're not like exercising, you do need to take care of yourself, because sometimes our anger comes from a place of resentment. I know that there have been times where I have resented my children for things that really aren't their fault, for things that I was saying that I couldn't do or didn't have time to do because of them, but really the truth is that I just wasn't making the time. I wasn't prioritizing the time to do the things I needed to do to be a healthy mom. So, unfortunately, guys, there's no one magic bullet. I can't say if you do this one thing, you will be a less angry, more patient mom. But I can tell you that it is possible to grow, and it is possible to make changes, and it is possible to enjoy your children and to not feel like you are angry and screaming all the time. These things are possible because they have happened for me. I was once that angry, screaming mom who just wanted to run away. And now I don't usually want to run away. I usually say, hey, I could use an hour or two out of the house and then I'm good. But you don't have to stay in that place. Hopefully you have found this video helpful or informative or interesting in some way. I feel like I could take these topics and really divide them up and just really dig into them. And I feel like if we were sitting together on my couch, that we could talk for hours and hours and hours about how God has changed my heart towards my children, and about my own motherhood journey and all of the things that are different. But as far as anger goes, recognizing those triggers, having reasonable expectations, helps me be less angry and more patient. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.